Welcome to the instructional video for Fluidmaster's Duo Flush System. The Duo Flush System has everything needed to convert your toilet to dual flush technology in 25 minutes or less. The Duo Flush valve will allow you to save water in not only 5 and 3.5 gallon per flush toilets, but also in 1.6 GPF and 1.28 GPF high-efficiency toilets. The PerforMAX fill valve included in this kit is a precision-engineered fill valve designed to work optimally with your dual flush system, ensuring your tank and bowl fill to the right level every time. In order to install the PerforMAX fill valve, you'll need a wrench, sponge or towel, scissors, measuring tape, a cup or mug, and a bucket or pitcher large enough to hold a gallon of water. There are 5 main components included with your Duo Flush valve kit. Each of these components are packaged in color-coded bags with a corresponding letter. The Duo Flush valve can be used with most 2-inch flush valves. You will need to identify the type of flush valve seat you have in your toilet. Do not install the Duo Flush valve onto a damaged or corroded flush valve seat. If your flush valve seat is damaged, replace it before installing the Duo Flush valve. The Duo Flush valve cannot be used in toilets with 3-inch flush valves, side mount flush valves, or tower flush valves. It also cannot be used in lowboy toilets. If you have a Mansfield flush valve model 210 or 211, replace it with Fluidmaster's 507 series flush valve. If your flush valve has an angled seat as shown here, locate and remove the angled seat adapter from the yellow bag labeled B. If your overflow pipe and flush valve seat are brass, locate and remove the brass seat adapter from the orange bag labeled C. If your overflow pipe is plastic and the seat is flat, no special adapter is required to install the Duo Flush valve. If your flush valve is not shown here, then contact the Fluidmaster technical service team before proceeding with the install. Shut off the water supply valve beneath your toilet. Remove your toilet tank lid. Mark the maximum water level with a pencil. Flush your toilet. Make another pencil mark at the level of the residual water left in the tank. Flush the remaining water from the tank. Using a sponge, soak up the remaining water in the tank. Detach the flapper chain from the tank lever arm and remove the flapper. Remove the lock nut that secures the tank lever to the tank and remove the tank lever. The lock nut is reverse threaded, so turn the lock nut clockwise to loosen it. Place a towel or receptacle on the floor beneath the fill valve to catch any residual water left in the lines. Remove the water supply connector and the lock nut by turning them counterclockwise. You may need a wrench to loosen the nuts. Lift the old fill valve and refill hose out of the tank. Inspect the hole in the tank for cracks or chips and clean out any debris in the area of the hole. Before installing the angled seat adapter, thoroughly clean the seat with a clean rag. To install the angled seat adapter, peel the paper away from the sealant ring located at the bottom side of the angled seat adapter. Be careful not to pull the sealant ring away from the adapter. If you do, simply press the ring back into the adapter. Locate the yellow arrow on the back side of the adapter. Align the yellow arrow with the overflow pipe and firmly press the angled seat adapter onto the flush valve seat. Before installing the brass seat adapter, thoroughly clean the brass seat with a clean rag. If your overflow pipe is threaded into the flush valve seat, make sure it's tight by twisting it clockwise. Slide the brass seat adapter down the overflow pipe and snap it to the flush valve seat as shown here. Locate the Duo Flush valve in the blue bag labeled A and remove it from the bag. Remove the foam inserts from under the dials. Locate the arrow on the snap-on mount. Detach the flush handle actuator and cable from the side of the Duo Flush valve. Align the arrow with the overflow pipe. Rotate the Duo Flush valve on the snap-on mount in a clockwise direction as far as your tank wall will allow. so that the distance between the cable linkage and the tank lever hole is minimized. Align the arrow with the overflow pipe. Install the Duo flush valve by snapping it onto your existing flush valve seat or seat adapter. Be careful not to get the cable caught between the snap-on mount and the seat. The green dial should be to the right and the blue dial should be to the left side of the tank. If the Duo flush valve is obstructed and cannot seat properly on the existing flush valve, you can rotate the flush valve on the snap-on base to create clearance. Attach the end of the overflow hose with the black clip to the top of the overflow pipe. Locate the dual action handle in the green bag labeled D. Remove the lock nut in a clockwise direction. With the tabs oriented in a vertical position, push the dual action handle through the hole in the side of the tank and hand tighten the lock nut in a counterclockwise direction. While holding the handle in a horizontal position, line up the tabs on the handle with the slots on the handle actuator and snap the two parts together. The handle actuator should always be installed vertically with the cable directed towards the bottom of the tank. When activating the full flush, firmly depress the handle and release. When activating the half flush, lift up on the handle momentarily and release. If ever you need to remove the handle actuator, hold the top of the actuator and firmly pull it away from the handle. Before installing your PerforMAX fill valve, you will need to disassemble the small parts. Pull the shank and cone washer over the metal tab, allowing the lock nut, coupling nut, and refill clip to separate. Do not remove the metal tab from the end of the refill clip. Separate the cone washer from the shank washer by pushing out the cone washer with your thumb. You may also use scissors to cut the 4 connection points. After removing the cone washer, set it aside. Place the shank washer onto the threaded shank of the fill valve with the flat side up. Push the shank washer all the way up the threaded shank so that it is flush against the flange. Measure the height of the overflow pipe. Place the fill valve into the tank but do not secure it with the lock nut. Locate the CL or critical level mark just below the refill hose nipple. Measure the height of the CL mark. The CL mark should be set 1 inch higher than the top of the overflow pipe. Ensure the retaining ring is locked in place. To adjust the height of the fill valve, hold the top of the fill valve steady with one hand and turn the shank of the fill valve with the other. Turn the shank clockwise to decrease the height and counterclockwise to increase the height. Place the fill valve into the tank so that the refill nipple is pointing toward the overflow pipe. Hold the shank of the fill valve in place while tightening the lock nut in a clockwise direction. Hand tighten the lock nut only. Connect the free end of the refill tube to the smaller nipple located at the side of the Duo flush valve. Squeeze and slide the hose clamp down to the end of the hose. Identify your supply line. If your supply line is a metal supply line with a flared end, you may use the cone washer and coupling nut that came with the fill valve. For all other types of supply lines, use the existing washer and nut. For ease of installation, consider using Fluidmaster's Click Seal Toilet Connector. Simply hand tighten the connector nut until it clicks. The click lets you know it's sealed. Using the Click Seal Connector will ensure that you never over-tighten the nut. Turn the water supply on and let the tank refill, and check for leaks at the coupling nut and lock nut. If a leak occurs, tighten the nuts further until the leak stops. Depress the float cup and submerge it under the water for 30 seconds. Flush the toilet and let the tank refill. Turn the adjustment rod at the side of the fill valve clockwise to raise the water level or counterclockwise to lower the water level so that the water level is even with the higher pencil mark you made earlier. Set both dials to the max setting by pressing down on the adjustment dials and turning them counterclockwise. Drop 3 pieces of toilet paper into the bowl and pull the dual action handle upward. If the toilet paper was successfully flushed down the drain, press the green adjustment dial down and turn to the next lowest setting. Repeat the flushing test until the dial is at the lowest possible setting while still maintaining a successful flush. Drop 3 pieces of toilet paper into the bowl and push the dual action handle downward. If the toilet paper was successfully flushed down the drain, press the blue adjustment dial down and turn to the next lowest setting. Repeat the flushing test until the dial is at the lowest possible setting while still maintaining a successful flush. Typically, the best full flush setting is 2 numbers higher than that of the half flush setting. Slowly pour a gallon of water into the bowl and wait 1 minute for the water level in the bowl to settle. Now mark the water level in the bowl. A dry erase marker or grease pencil works well and can easily be removed. Flush the toilet. If the water level in the bowl reaches its mark before the tank finishes filling, adjust the roller clamp to the lower setting by pushing the roller down first, then forward. Flush the toilet and repeat the test until the water level in the bowl fills to the proper level just as the tank stops filling and the fill valve shuts off. If your fill valve continuously runs and does not turn off, you may need to flush debris out of the valve. To do this, you must first remove the cap assembly. Turn off the water shutoff valve. Next, hold the shaft of the fill valve below the float cup. Let the float cup rest on the top of one hand in the uppermost position. Place your other hand on the top of the valve with your thumb on the side of the arm that protrudes from the cap. Using the arm as leverage, twist the cap assembly in a counterclockwise direction 1/8 turn. The cap will unlock and you can lift the cap assembly straight up. Inspect the fill valve seat for any large particles or debris and remove by hand or with tweezers. You are now ready to flush debris out of your supply line. Hold a cup or mug over the top of the uncapped fill valve as you turn the water supply shutoff valve back on. Let the water flow for 10 to 15 seconds. Now turn the water off and repeat this procedure 3 times. With the water supply turned off, place the cap assembly on the top of the fill valve with the adjustment rod next to the refill tube. Press the cap assembly down and twist clockwise 1/8 turn to lock it in place. Make sure the float cup is free to move up and down and does not interfere with the dual flush valve or cable. Congratulations! You have completed installing the Fluidmaster Duo Flush Valve System. For troubleshooting tips, please refer to the installation guide or contact Fluidmaster's technical service team with any questions you may have.